Okay, so I had to do this. You probably by now heard of that competition, scoring competition by Westworld Spitfire, and also about the winning track by David Kudell. So in this video, I just want to talk about with you guys and exploring and analyzing a little bit that winning track in combination with the scene, of course, and go through it bit by bit and see why did David the things he did and why this track has won. So let's go. Approaching now. Stand by. Got it. Okay, so right in the beginning, I want to mention one thing. Do me a favor, forget about the entire Westworld franchise. Forget about that series at all. Forget about the music which has been composed so far for the show. Just try to be that creative person who's just about understanding why David came up with the music he did. So in the beginning, you just hear some subtle piano intro, nothing special, and then some attention creating signal and that something is going on. So let's continue.
Verified. Enable semi-automatic control, disable safety features, maximum speed, go.
So it's some nice, tension building with the strings to just introduce that something is going to happen. So what is also important to understand, nothing spectacular happens so far. This is just building tension. And this is the most important thing, especially when it comes to a scene like this. And David does it well. There is nothing special happening. We could have done, you may not agree with me that this fits. You could have come up with something different. Probably like 11,000 people, the amount of people who, participated in that competition, came up with different things in the beginning. This is just generic, kind of. So, but let's not talk about, why exactly he did this. It's just something which doesn't, and this is the most important thing, that doesn't distract the viewer, the watcher right now from the scene, what's happening on screen. He's just supporting it. He's just painting. He just additionally creates some music which doesn't distract from what's going on screen. So let's rewind it a little bit.
What's happening to him?
I think he's switching genres.
Okay, so this is the point. I heard a lot of criticism about that. People said that, David went making fun of the entire competition using this 8-bit music. And let me just explain a little bit what is going on. Let's watch this entire scene again. And let me explain what you see, what's happening on screen, and what additionally David did to make it even way more deep. And yes, of course, I agree with you guys saying this is just something funny happening. This is something jokingly, yes, in a way, but it's way deeper than this. So let's check out this scene once more.
What's happening to him?
I think he's switching genres.
Okay, so when I first saw this, I think it's that genius, it's that brilliant, because what David did here is simply not just making fun of the competition or, trying to shit on everyone. It serves a purpose. And he went with that idea of using 8-bit instruments or sounds to enhance what's happening. Let me explain what's happening. In the beginning right here, you can see that in fact, I have to let you know one thing. I absolutely don't care about Westworld, the series at all. Maybe I will watch it, but I didn't watch it so far. I absolutely don't care about. I don't even know how all these characters are named. I didn't watch a single episode, and I just want to give you my opinion because I'm just trying to judge or just talk about that scene. So as I said in the beginning, forget about the entire Westworld franchise. This is about this one specific scene. And so let's see what's going on. In that scene, we can see Aaron Paul's character, that something happens to him. I don't care what happens in the series. I don't care what's the reason. I just see what is happening right now on screen. And this was the main purpose, to see what people come up in terms of originality. It wasn't about to recreate the music of Westworld. It wasn't about, replacing Ramin Djawadi, the composer of the Westworld series. This was about having a scene available from Westworld and then try to come up with something original. This was, the reason of that competition. So, as I said before, sorry I'm drifting off, but it's just all important points. That you see on this scene that something seems to happen with Aaron Paul's character here, the actor, and it seems to me like there is like some drug moment happening where some drugs are taking effect. It could also be, I showed that to my girlfriend, that scene, and she said, it looks like something has been downloaded into his brain. And this is, it doesn't matter what it is, something is happening to his brain, something is manipulating to his brain. And again, I don't care what's happening inside the Westworld franchise, why this happens in the series. I'm just watching that scene. So you see that something is happening to his brain.
What's happening to him?
I think he's switching genres.
And we got one last swell, so to say, of the orchestra of, let's say, this one, let's call it one perception of reality, okay? And now we are going to that 8-bit sound, which to me is a perception of Aaron Paul's character of a completely different reality, not a different reality, but his perception of reality, how he perceives reality right now in that state of something being downloaded into his brain, like a faulty file or something, or it's just like a drug which is just affecting his brain and how everything is working up there. It has been manipulated, and David introduced that by introducing these 8-bit sounds. And you can see like him is like, what the heck is going on right now? And now the following what's happening, we experience what is happening from the perception of Aaron Paul's character's mind, of how he perceives reality. And to bring that up right away in this moment, where a lot of people just, literally bashing. I even heard he received like, threats. I mean, seriously? Because he did that? He wasn't making fun of something. You have to realize that he was not just introducing that element to just talk about a condition of the character right now. He was using this element to create a story within a story. So when I first saw this, my mind has been really blown. And to be honest, when I look at the likes right now, currently at this state, we have 939 likes on his video and 582 dislikes. So again, I'm not saying that you have other reasons why you think that his music didn't work, but most of the time, this was one of the most mentioned things that people disagree with these 8-bit. People made fun of it. It's like he's saying he made this entire competition a joke. No, I'm sorry if I offend you, but you seriously didn't understand what David did here. And I don't want to glorify David. I don't know him very well. He seems to be a nice guy, but this is not about the glorification. But I think I just want to explain to you why this is so genius, because this is kind of an Inception moment. If you know the movie Inception, obviously, there is this, reality, and then you have that dream state. And then they made this entire movie based on reality and dream moments. But what happens here in that Westworld scene is we just see one scene, and David made use of that, manipulation of Aaron Paul's character's brain, and now entirely tells an entirely different story. Not just a different story, but, like a reality perception based on the condition of Aaron Paul's character right now. Again, I don't even know how that guy is named inside the series. I don't care at all. I just want to explain why this is so special. So let's continue. Let's check this scene again and let's continue.
What's happening to him?
I think he's switching genres.
We need distance. Head south.
What happens now is that David starts to mix up that different perception of reality with, let's say, the regular reality of all the other characters. So he's playing in between the characters. He just got like that messed up brain of Aaron Paul's character, and then all the other guys and people participating in that scene. And then he mixes. He starts introducing different elements. Other elements than the 8-bit sounds, and kind of merges kind of these two realities back. We just had, as I said before, this one perception of reality, then the regular one, and now it's melting together. And also keep in mind the main theme he's using here. This is like a main theme he's introducing to that scene. Just keep that in mind. Another key element, not that important, like everything like that perception of reality, but now he's stopping the music. He's going down with the music. He's playing with the dynamics. Okay, so he's building it up. Nobody knows what's going on. There has been this kind of weird moment happening, and then he's building up, and then drop down to a next scene where your brain gets time to realize, to think about what is happening next. He doesn't want to take it away. He was just building the tension to that moment. And to be honest, I've listened secretly listened to a lot of tracks of that competition. And there were so many tracks that didn't even pay attention to the picture. People were just trying to be busy about the music, that they totally forget to compose to the scene, that they are just one tiny wheel in a huge machinery working together to create like a final product. People were just busy with 4 bars and 8 bars and stacking parts on each other and taking it away and using this loop and try to recreate Ramin Djawadi's music, or coming up with some, dark wobbling stuff of other composers, and just, paying way too much attention to the music itself, and then forgetting about the key elements to talk, to use that music to tell a scene. And of course, not just a scene, but an entire story. So let's rewind a tiny little bit here and let's keep watching from here.
That's a standard issue.
So again, you have that perception again of his character. He's perceiving what's happening right now with these 8-bit sounds, because he's the guy with the messed up brain. And the music, the real music, let's say with the non 8-bit sounds, is moving back to the background a little bit. Okay.
Is that a standard issue?
No. It's not.
So again, you have these 8-bit sound effects being introduced to support again that messed up thinking, that messed up reality, that messed up perceived reality of his character here. So let's move on.
Point and shoot.
Like a little winning jingle. I wouldn't have needed this, to be honest, but it just supports this. What is going on? The guy receives the weapon. It's like even more messed up. So like, what? You can see that he's totally confused. And again, don't care about. I don't want any of these explanations. What's going on in the series? It doesn't totally matter. You have just given a scene by Westworld. And if you thought you have to recreate the music because this is a pitch, then I'm sorry to say, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to harsh sound, but I just want to be honest here. This competition wasn't about pitching for a series. I also heard arguments about that no producer would never ever would have used this music inside the show. You are absolutely right. They wouldn't, but it wasn't a pitch. It was about to find the skills of one composer to be original and to be able to not just support, yes, to be able to support a scene with music, but as I said, David went even one step further and he placed a story within a story about that messed up character right now with his brain patch or the drug moment or whatever, and dealing with it and then melting it back together again with, let's say, default reality.
Police ahead. Maintain speed. Sharp left. Now.
So this is also brilliant in a point. Again, we may disagree on how he did it with a drum loop, did it like this messed up, playing with all these accents and stuff. This is totally matter of taste. You could come up with, give me just like a year, and and one day working on each of these on the same scene for like once a day for a full year, and I come up with 365 versions. And probably everyone else would have done too. But what is most important here, that he didn't just come up with some generic music, which is just, placing music on a scene. He's using something which looks like a little dance of confusion. These cars, I just don't know what is going on, what is right now happening. It's just like that little waltz. And he supports that with a messy drums and not really sure where the track is going to head. It's like a little big band stuff, it's like even more weird. So, what is going on? You have that little accent, maybe kind of a little bit, not saying like a James Bond movie, but something which is just even more unusual. And then it goes back. Most important, he's introducing the theme again, which has been the main theme of that 8-bit theme. He's bringing that scene back. And when I review tracks, when I listen to lots of tracks, when I was listening to quite a few of these submissions of that scoring competition, I felt like a lot of people just try to come up with some cool music, but not telling that story in the sense of using kind of a main melody, a main phrase, like part of the story to connect it with the entire music. It's like when you build a story and you're telling right away from the beginning of that movie, there was a murderer and he killed that person, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then characters drink like coffee together for the next hour and just, talking about the weather. I mean, what kind of a movie would that? You wouldn't watch it. You would just turn it off after like 10 minutes. But this is what I very often hear when people write music. They just tell nothing. There is no key element. It's just one part of a melody, which may sound cool, which may sound emotionally right, but then it moves to something else, to something else, to something else, to something else. It's like you tell a story of Adam in Germany trying to eat a sausage and going on a mission, and suddenly it's about Jack in Australia, camping on Ayers Rock, and then suddenly it's about, Jupiter mission, trying to find some aliens, and then it goes back to telling something about, potentially lizard people living inside the hollow earth. This is just where's the story? Where's the connection between all these things? And this is so very important. And again, David did this. He just came up with that. And now this little pattern, this theme has been woven into the entire music of the entire of that entire clip here. So to me, again, another genius moment. You may be annoyed by the 8-bit use right now. I am not, because we switch back to his mind. Sorry, we move back to his mind, and it's just like, oh shit, I missed that shot. Now we're just, we lost. What should we do?
I missed.
Hold on.
And now we move back to reality. Now you see that melting for the first time, really melting two realities back together. You see, David is using the 8-bit part, the 8-bit music, to tell from the view of Aaron Paul's character, and then using the normal music to tell this reality by everyone else. Okay, so watch this, and you can hear the explosion, just like everybody. He goes back to default reality. Everybody is experiencing this in the same way. That's why you got that heroic music.
Hold on.
Right there, we made it. And then we see his face, and then it goes back to 8-bit. And then he's using that horn swell or trombone swell back,
speed.
with that little drift here. Let me just find this again. Sorry. To build tension again, so he transitions the scene.
All right, I need you. Drop in, intersect, maximum speed.
Do you recognize the melody pattern?
Arm charges now. Accelerate.
Acceleration is 90%.
More.
94%.
More.
98%.
Stop.
So what is also important, I actually went, was watching that video quite a few times and tried to come up with remembering a little bit of the key points. But what I'm seeing right now is at this point, he's leaning back again and we don't hear any 8-bit more. So is he kind of back to, default reality?
88%.
Stop.
Why the f are we stopping?
Get down.
Main theme again. Slowly heroic, like all the characters get out, they face the situation, the danger right now. They're just preparing for something to happen. Okay, so I hope I was able to give you a little bit of an insight on why I think this track has won. Because, as I mentioned a few times before, this wasn't about David's track. Wasn't just supporting a scene with music. It was not just some generic stuff happening. He was creating a story in a story. He was creating an entire perception of reality. And, like I'm pointing like this direction with, perceiving the reality and using these 8-bit sounds of Aaron Paul's character, and then let's say like orchestral instruments or let's say default normal instruments to support the perception of reality of the other people. So he was entirely making up something. He just wrote a story. He created a story inside a story of that scene. And this is why I think this is so brilliant, and this is the reason why this track has won. And what's also very important, I just quickly have to go through this. I definitely understand that some people of you think that this track shouldn't have won, but I'm convinced, and please don't get me wrong here, everyone else who has won, even somebody who would have made it perfect, there would be some people being completely mad about the winner. And I honestly have to say it, if you just complain about, especially publicly complain about why this track has won or something seems to be off. And this is just like a first-hand experience I had when, I don't want to mention any names, but this happened on Facebook, and I'm seriously, like the perfect example, because there was some guy bashing about this track and what a shame that this track has won, and just coming up with all these assumptions and insulting words against David or the music. I mean, this is all hopefully not personal, even though I heard that David received threats. But I mean, seriously? I mean, really seriously, some people threatening David with whatever because he has won that competition, because he deserved to win by having such a genius idea about doing this. But what I wanted to say is that I experienced this firsthand. There was this guy bashing around, and I just try to I usually stay out of these discussions because it's definitely not worth it, but I just try to come up with letting that person know, hey, you know what? The only thing that happens by bashing publicly someone, it's not like it was just a different opinion and somebody wanted to say, in my opinion, he could have used a different sound of the drums or sound of whatever. No, it was just like, what a shame that this guy won, because in brackets, so many other tracks would have been so much better or deserved more to win. Well, you're not the jury, first of all. And yes, we all maybe, I don't agree on some of the instrument usages on the drum set. It sounded a little bit too dry to me, but it totally doesn't matter. It's about the originality of that track. So that moment, what happened when this guy bashed around, and I said, okay, you know what? The only thing which eventually may happen is that when you bash publicly on Facebook, on a post or whatever, that the only thing happens is that you may burn a few bridges, because what you do is just being frustrated. This is the basic outcome when you just bash around on someone. You're just frustrated that he won. You find it unfair, whatever. The only thing that happens is that you eventually burn bridges. And right on the next comment, believe it or not, Hans Zimmer popped into that discussion and said, you know what, to that guy, these are some bold accusations you're putting out there, because as you guys know, it has been way more weird than this. There were people saying like, well, but David knew Abrams, and that's why he won. Only because Abrams was involved in a project. Also, David was involved, but that doesn't mean that these guys are best buddies and going to have breakfast once a week. I don't want to sound arrogant or turn it around, put the spotlight on me. But just to give you another example, I've worked on a project as an additional arranger. At some point, I didn't even do much for the project, but I did it. And Hans Zimmer wrote the main theme of that video game back then. And I was just an additional arranger. Somewhere it's just like, but so in a relationship point of view, in a working relationship, yes, we worked together on this project. But it doesn't mean that I mean, I would have totally enjoyed, to go out with Hans Zimmer and have a beer and grab a coffee and talk about the world and everything, not necessarily just music, because people talk about plugins and music all the time. And this is just like, if I would have the chance to just put that as a side note, if I would have the chance to talk with someone, I would talk about general philosophies. I would be interested in the person and not what plugins he's using or something. So, I mean, even though, as I said back in that video game, if I would have worked, even if I worked with Hans Zimmer on this game, we don't know each other. So right now, when there would be potentially a new competition coming up and I would have won, does that mean, and Hans Zimmer sitting in the jury, would that mean that this was a setup or a fake competition because there was some guy and another guy working on a project together they have never met before? Seriously, guys, wake up. This is sorry to say, but this is bullshit. You can't say David worked on projects where where Abrams was involved in. That doesn't mean that these guys know, and even if they know each other, it doesn't mean that the entire setup, that the entire competition was a setup. And the other argument I've heard that, Spitfire used this as a big marketing campaign. Oh, really? It's a sample library company selling sample libraries. Of course, it's a marketing thing. It's not like they are, just throwing out money, helping the poor or something. This is a competition is always at least to like a few % about the company itself, because it's marketing for these guys. Is this really an issue? I mean, this is like I do competitions once in a while. Of course, this is self-advertising about my product, about my sample libraries I'm selling. And I don't get this, why people use that as an argument. And another argument I heard is that, Spitfire stated that you shouldn't change, let's change the clip in general. And how I understood this is not, people complained that David broke the rules and changed the clip. But I think, where did he change the clip? He just replaced a few sound effects. He even jumped into that, he took that risk of changing some of the sounds, but used it for his originality to come up with what he did. And it worked. So people using that argument, but he was breaking the rules. The only thing, what happens, again, I say it, is put out your frustration because you or some other track didn't win. You're just frustrated with how things have been handled. Nobody broke the rules here. He didn't just, cut the clips and created an entire new story. As I said before, David was brilliant enough to use to use his music and create like a scene within a scene, like an inception moment, without having a movie or a scene where it's obvious that something, has been layered, like reality perceptions have been layered. But he created this. And this is what I think is the brilliant thing that happened. So again, I want to be sure that I mentioned this because I'm not really sure if I mentioned it before, but just be aware that this wasn't about finding a replacement for the Westworld composer, coming up with a musical atmosphere of what has been happened in the show before. You have to just see this scene isolated. Yes, there are Westworld characters taking place in that scene. This is a scene from Westworld, but it doesn't matter for this competition. The competition, the mission was to be creative, to be original. And this is what David did, So if you say that he used 8-bit sounds to make fun of the entire competition, to shit on people, or use it in like a bad way, this is not what he was going for. He created these two, like these inception moments. There was one kind of a reality and another state, and we experience both of these states. And also what I heard that people said, maybe people have been influenced by Westworld, by the show, by the music, so they felt like being attracted to what kind of music the show used already, and started creating some sound-alikes, or what's typical for sci-fi or a chasing scene or whatever. But you, as a creative composer, you just have to switch that off, because technically if we would all be influenced by music, we would also be influenced by temp music. And therefore, 90%, seriously, 90% of all video game cutscenes and, like TV shows or movies would sound like Batman, because this is what's happening. A lot of producers, just a lot of audio directors, they use Batman soundtrack, that long note, and they use this as a reference track for action. I mean, seriously, if this music would influence you all the time, if a temp track would influence you, just go home, change your profession. This is what you also have to understand, is that a producer uses Batman, for example, to just explain the mood. We want tension, we want excitement, we want action. They use this track to describe the emotion of the track, the emotional state, or the condition of the scene. They don't use it to say, do the same like Zimmer does. Of course, there are some people say like, you have to recreate this, otherwise I'm calling someone else. But most of the time, they just choosing or picking a temp track to describe that. So coming back to the point, if you would feel influenced by the Westworld music, then this is your fault. You have to see that scene isolated. And even though, as I said before, it's using Westworld characters, David did brilliant by just coming up with original music, creating these, intertwined or, these conflicts of reality, perception, or whatever. And this is why the track has won. This is why this is a winning track. And you may dislike, if you don't agree with me. I don't care if you dislike this video. I don't care if you put any insulting comments about me in the comment section down below. But you have to understand that if you are not happy with someone, congratulating a winner, move on and see this competition as over, and you didn't win the prize of libraries worth $20,000. If you think that this was your quick way to Hollywood to build a career, then this entire music business is not for you. Just change your profession if you think that this was the quick way to get there. Because if you freak out after, like a competition, like lots of people did with this competition, if you freak out that much by even insulting the winning composer, what do you think what will happen to you when you work, 16 hours a day? I'm not a fan of working 16 hours a day or 20 hours a day, when it comes to like a hardcore deadline. But there will be times you have to do it. And depending even more, if you want to become that famous music composer, you will be living for a full year or even longer to work like this. You just have to go through that phase. What will you do? Like break down and whine about and cry about what is going to happen when people reject your music like for the 20th or 50th time? I mean, as Christian Hansen put it in his video, welcome to media composition. This is a tough business. This is not sitting there and saying like, I just want to use a competition as a jump board to Hollywood. Of course, this can happen. It can all happen, but you have to prepare that this is where it all starts with. This is the point where it gets really tough. About the industry, where you get rejected, where you get promised like 50 or 100 grand if this project works out, and then you receive like a message. Sadly, we have to inform you, blah blah blah. So if you really think that this was a quick way to get famous, get out of here. Just do something else. So in a way, there is like this one side of me and saying like, Alex, you can't say things like get out. Just change your profession. But I just want to make you think, why suddenly, because of what reasons, of what, it's not like the winning composer went to your family and, threatened them, or just like, beat up your wife, or just destroyed your main working machine, or just told some rumors about you that you can turn around and say, okay, guy, just this far and not further, otherwise you get in trouble. It's not like this happened. He just composed a track and it won a competition. And now all this shitstorm is coming up. So a part of me is kind of sorry by getting that on that rant, on a rampage like this right now and saying like, just change your profession, look for something else. But I just want you to understand that there shouldn't be a reason to come up with such a shitstorm against David, and really sit down for a second, use your brain. I'm not saying that you're unintelligent and that you didn't think about it, but just try to understand and not just, well, he used 8-bit sounds, he makes fun of the entire community. Use your brain and try to understand. And I hope that this video, in a sense, even though you may disagree about all kinds of, mixing things, about the use of instrumentation, all these things, this is just part when you just apply to work for a TV series or whatever. This is just part of the editing process. No, we don't like this. For example, the drum sound. Let's just change it. Okay, let's do it. Bam. This is just a minor thing. This can happen anytime. But I hope that this video helped you a little bit to understand the way of how David thought about the when he created the music, and why it is so genius to just intertwine these realities and make this look appear as some kind of a downloading something to his brain, experiencing as if it would be a game, or like having this moment where drugs showing effect, and then he just perceives everything with some kind of a weird mental state. This is simply the genius part of that video. So I hope I was able to give you a little bit of a more insight, and that you, especially, I'm seriously thankful that you stayed with me for such a long video, because we probably hit like the 40-minute mark right now. And but I just felt like I had to let this out. I love caring about you guys, as especially aspiring composers. But if you can do yourself one favor, don't bash people who deserved to win, because as stated in my previous example about Hans Zimmer writing a comment directly to someone, because it takes years to build your career. It takes years to get some point. And it takes just 30 seconds to potentially destroy your entire career and burn bridges because you're frustrated that you didn't win, or questioning or even insulting the winning composer by putting all these things out there, because the internet doesn't forget. And let's turn this place into not like a bash fest or something, but just try to understand each other. Try to dig a little bit deeper. Don't try to just scratch the surface and re-blah what not everyone, but what a lot of people did. I heard that he did. I heard that he did. And this is simply not fair, Besides that, you never know. You may be an aspiring composer bashing the crap out of someone, for example, like this in this competition, like the winning composer, and then suddenly at some point you are supposed to work with someone together, and this is the guy you bashed on, So if I would be someone, and this happened to me before, it's like saying some guy asked me to work with me, and like a few months before he was telling shit about me. No, I'm not working with that guy. Definitely not, because as I said before, this entire competition was to check, to see inside of a head of a composer coming up with original ideas, which David did brilliantly. And this would be a guy, when he's been hired for a series, of course, he wouldn't create music like this to make fun of a scene, or to use 8-bit sounds and create this fun and weird and messed up moments. But it shows us the way he thinks about music, and that he's able to come up with some original content, and even able to change kind of these things. So when a team of a production company, writing, like creating a TV series or a movie or a game, whatever, they know they would be perfect with David, because he's able to think in all kinds of ways, even shifting things. And this is important. This wasn't about, as I said before, like a pitch thing where you just, come up with some right music for a scene, and just, this will happen. If it's about a pitch, if this would be about a pitch, the music would have been totally different. But this was trying to find an original composer, and this is why I think David deserved to win. So again, I'm seriously thank you that you stayed with me, that you followed along for this long. If you have any questions, comments, just feel free to use the section down below. And so far, I'm pretty proud that I was able to answer, you know, almost every comment during the last weeks towards me, and, you know, respect it, give you a heart, taking the time, because it's important for me, for me too, you know, that you interact with me like I'm interacting with you guys. So again, I hope you find this video useful. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.